It's 512 BCE. A general draws his sword on the king's favorite concubines. This is the art of war, and its deepest secret is a paradox hiding in plain sight. 13 chapters, 6,000 characters. History's most influential text on warfare, strategy, and destruction. And its most celebrated principle says the supreme art of war is to never fight at all. That's not a metaphor. Sun Tzu means it literally. So why does the rest of the book exist? That question has obsessed generals and revolutionaries for 25 centuries, and it changes every lesson that follows. But to understand the paradox, you first have to understand the world that created it. The Spring and Autumn period, beginning around 771 BCE. Hundreds of feudal states locked in near constant warfare. States weren't just defeated, they were erased. Populations enslaved, entire cultures obliterated. By the Warring States period, hundreds of states had been compressed into 7, and the killing only intensified. Lose, and your state doesn't just fall, it ceases to exist. In this context, don't fight wasn't idealism. It was the most ruthlessly practical advice a strategist could offer. Into this world comes a figure named Sun Tzu. Or perhaps he doesn't. Sima Qian, writing centuries after the fact, calls him a general from Qi who served King Helu of Wu around 512 BCE. Some scholars think Sun Tzu wasn't one man at all, but the accumulated wisdom of many strategists compressed into a single voice. It doesn't matter. The ideas survived because they worked. And the story that introduces Sun Tzu to history encodes exactly what the book actually teaches. King Helu challenges him. Prove your theories. Train my palace concubines as soldiers. Sun Tzu gives clear orders. The women laugh. They don't comply. So he has the king's 2 favorites beheaded over the king's desperate protests. He reissues the orders. Every woman drills perfectly. When orders are clear and not followed, the fault lies with the officers. Discipline is structural, not personal. Whether that story is legend or history, the text itself was proven real in one of the 20th century's most remarkable archaeological finds. April 1972. Workers in Shandong province break into a Han Dynasty tomb at Yinqueshan, Silver Sparrow Mountain. Inside, thousands of bamboo strips dated roughly 140 to 118 BCE. Among them, a manuscript of The Art of War, matching the text we read today. And for 25 centuries, the most consequential leaders in history have treated it like a weapon. Mao Zedong credited it with shaping his guerrilla campaigns. General Giap used it against France and America. It's required reading at West Point. So what does it actually teach? 5 lessons, each building on the last, each more dangerous than the one before. The 5th lesson resolves the paradox we started with, but only if you understand the first 4. Lesson 1. The most quoted line in the entire book, and the most misunderstood. Everyone knows the first part. Know the enemy and know yourself, and you need not fear 100 battles. But almost nobody quotes what comes next, and the part they skip changes the entire meaning. Sun Tzu gives 3 scenarios, not 1. Know both yourself and the enemy, you win 100 battles. Know yourself, but not the enemy. For every victory, you will also suffer a defeat. Know neither, you will lose every single time. Now read that structure again. Self-knowledge alone, knowing nothing about the enemy, still gives you 50%. Self-ignorance guarantees total destruction. The asymmetry is everything. Sun Tzu isn't saying study your enemy. He's saying the most dangerous opponent you face might be yourself. And he gets specific. Chapter 8 lists 5 fatal weaknesses, not in the army, in the commander. Recklessness, cowardice, a quick temper that can be baited, a sensitivity to shame that can be exploited. A general who doesn't know his own psychology will be destroyed by it. Every time. In 260 BCE, that exact failure destroyed an entire army and changed the course of Chinese history. The state of Zhao had been holding a defensive line against Qin. Their general, Lian Po, was old, experienced, and patient. His strategy was working. Don't engage on Qin's terms. Hold the fortifications. Let their supplies run dry. But Zhao's king, under political pressure, made a catastrophic decision. He replaced Lian Po with Zhao Kuo, son of a famous general, brilliant in theory, experienced in nothing. Zhao Kuo didn't know what he didn't know. He didn't know his knowledge was academic, not operational. And he didn't know that Qin had secretly replaced their own general with Bai Qi, one of the most lethal commanders in Chinese history. Zhao Kuo abandoned the defensive position and launched an aggressive attack, exactly as Bai Qi had planned. Bai Qi let them advance, then swung forces behind them and sealed the trap shut. 46 days of siege, starvation. Zhao Kuo was killed trying to break out. The entire Zhao army surrendered. Traditional accounts say 400,000 men. Zhao never recovered. The defeat wasn't caused by Qin's superiority. It was caused by a commander who didn't know the limits of his own competence. The Chinese idiom born from this disaster, discussing warfare on paper, is still used today, 23 centuries later. Changping made Qin's unification of China effectively inevitable. One man's self-ignorance reshaped a continent. Changping proves the first lesson. But Sun Tzu's second principle was already waiting, written before any of it. All warfare is based on deception. When able to attack, seem unable. When active, seem inactive. When near, make the enemy believe you are far away. Sun Tzu doesn't treat deception as a tactic you deploy occasionally. It's the environment within which all tactics operate. The logic is surgical. If every element of the enemy's assessment is wrong, then every decision he makes will be wrong. He defends where you aren't attacking, commits reserves against a threat that doesn't exist, and has nothing left when the real blow falls. But Sun Tzu goes deeper than troop positions. He targets the enemy's mind itself. Irritate a hot-tempered commander into rash action. Feign weakness so he grows arrogant. Architect his psychological reality from the outside. In 1944, someone executed Sun Tzu's deception doctrine at a scale the world had never seen. The Allies needed to land the largest invasion force in history on a specific beach, and the Germans could not be there waiting. So they invented an entire army that didn't exist. The first United States Army Group, FUSAG, an entire phantom army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers that existed only on paper and in German intelligence files. They put General Patton, the commander the Germans feared most, in charge of a ghost army. Every German spy in Britain had been turned into a double agent. They fed Berlin a false picture of reality so complete, so meticulous, that what happened next may have saved the entire invasion. and it has everything to do with Sun Tzu's third lesson. But here's what should stop you cold. On June 6th, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. The deception had worked. Hitler held his panzer reserves at Pas de Calais for 6 full weeks after D-Day, waiting for the real invasion. It never came. The Allies hadn't overcome German strength. They had manufactured German decisions. Which brings us to Lesson 3. The hierarchy almost nobody quotes. Sun Tzu ranks 4 paths to victory. Best, destroy the enemy's plans before they ever mobilize. Second, break their alliances. Third, fight their army. Dead last, besiege a city. Fighting is 3rd out of 4. What most people think warfare is, Sun Tzu calls a fallback. The Gulf War, 1991. 38 days of airstrikes shattered Iraqi command and logistics. The ground war lasted 100 hours. The army's brain was already dead. The Gulf War proves the hierarchy. But Sun Tzu has one more concept that explains how those conditions get constructed in the first place. Sun Tzu calls it shi, the potential energy of a drawn crossbow, the instant before the trigger releases. The master strategist doesn't respond to the battlefield. He constructs it. Threaten what the enemy can't afford to lose. Force him to react. Then strike where his reaction leaves him exposed. October 1805. Napoleon doesn't march toward the Austrian army at Ulm. He swings the Grande Armée behind it entirely. 30,000 Austrians surrendered without a real fight. Their defeat was inevitable before it began. Lesson 5. The final piece. The one that resolves the paradox. The victorious strategist seeks battle only after the victory has already been won. The losing general fights first, then hopes. 217 BCE. Hannibal annihilates 15,000 Romans in an ambush at Lake Trasimene. Rome panics. They appoint a dictator, Fabius Maximus. History will call him the Delayer. Fabius refuses to fight. He shadows Hannibal through Italy, harasses supply lines, and waits. Rome calls him a coward. The Senate strips his authority. His replacement charges Hannibal at Cannae. 50 to 70,000 Romans killed in a single afternoon. That's what happens when you fight first and look for victory afterward. But the purest proof of winning first came on a single morning, June 5th, 1967. Israeli intelligence had studied Egyptian Air Force patterns for months. Patrol return times, radar blind spots, even breakfast schedules. At 7:45 a.m., Israeli jets hit every Egyptian airbase simultaneously. 80 minutes. Roughly 300 aircraft destroyed, most of them still on the ground. The 6-day war lasted 6 days. It was decided in those 80 minutes. So go back to the beginning, to the question. Why does a book about warfare say the supreme art is to never fight at all? Because not fighting requires more preparation than fighting ever could. Know yourself, so you see the real distance between your strength and the enemy's. Deceive, so the enemy's picture of that distance is entirely wrong. Attack the strategy, so even superior numbers can't coordinate against you. Shape the battlefield, so the outcome is determined before contact. Win first, then, and only then, go to war. 13 chapters, 6,000 characters. Every one a prerequisite for the moment fighting becomes unnecessary. The chapters don't contradict the supreme principle. They are its foundation. And this is why the text has survived 2,500 years without revision. Not because ancient Chinese warfare was unique, because the principles were never about warfare. They're about constructing conditions that make outcomes inevitable. And it works the same way whether the arena is military, political, commercial, or personal. Every technology of war has changed. Bronze gave way to steel, cavalry to tanks, arrows to guided missiles. The mind of the commander is not. Sun Tzu didn't write a manual for winning battles. He wrote a manual for thinking. Think back to that courtyard. A general draws his sword over the king's favorites. Everyone remembers the blade, but the lesson was never about the sword. Clear orders, structural discipline. The outcome decided before the first command was given. He didn't need to fight. He'd already won. That was the point, all along.